everyone. Thank you for joining us this evening. And just a reminder, this program is being recorded, so we ask that you please mute yourself, and we will begin momentarily. Welcome to Voices, an educational speaker series sponsored by Vision Loss Alliance of New Jersey. The voices you hear in this series will provide you with information, practical education, tools, and available resources to help you manage tasks in your everyday life. Tonight, we are excited to welcome Douglas Gilbert, Certified Orientation and Mobility Specialist, who will be presenting to us how to navigate dangerous street crossings and the circumstance of traditional crossings. Douglas will also talk about new artificial intelligence apps designed to identify traffic light color and details about the intersection. Before we begin, I'd like to share about our friend. Doug's vision loss was detected when he was an infant, and later at the age of 4 years old, he was diagnosed with dyslexia. Doug is a graduate of Rutgers University with a degree in the School of Management and Labor Relations. He has been an advocate for the Client Assistant Program, a job developer coordinator for the Adjustment to Vision Loss Program, and a travel instructor for New Jersey TIP at Rutgers, where he taught students with disabilities how to use public transportation. A recent graduate from Salus University, Douglas Gilbert is now a certified orientation and mobility specialist working with the Commission for the Blind and Visually Impaired. Before I formally introduce you to Doug, let's review the Zoom protocol for this evening. Doug encourages and welcomes questions, comments, and discussion. When he cues you and it's time, we ask that you use the raise your hand feature. For those of you who dialed in, the raise your hand feature is *9. *6 will mute and unmute you, giving you the opportunity to ask your question. If you're on a computer, Alt-Y, raise your hand. Alt-A is the mute and unmute command. If you're using a Mac, Option+Y, the keyboard shortcut to raise or lower your hand, Alt+A will mute and unmute you. Using the Zoom app on the iPad, move to the top right, select the More option and flick down to the raise hand. On the phone, this feature is located at the bottom of the screen on the right side. And our voice for this evening, we welcome Douglas Gilbert. Welcome, Doug.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. That sounds like a great guy. One day I got to meet him. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good.
Everybody's glad to hear it. All right. So, is anyone still crossing streets?
Trying to.
Of course.
Trying. All right. So, if anyone's taking, I'm sorry, Vicky? Oh, if that was a question, please come back later. So in O&M, when we're talking about street crossing, first of all, it's probably the most dangerous thing that I will ever teach, like ever. That and only closely followed by ascending and descending stairs. So this is the item in orientation and mobility that I spend the most time on. And my students will probably spend the lion's share of their time with me if their goal is total independence. You can't get around it without street crossing, not in this world. So when learning how to cross streets as people who have low vision or no vision, what are the senses that we need to cross a street with minimum risk? Anyone?
Doug likes everybody to interact, so join in if you have a...
Well, to hear the surge
Our
is
ears.
the first thing.
Say that again, Alexandria?
The first thing for me is the surge of the cars. to hear the sword.
Ah,
So
indeed,
that's the
indeed.
first thing for me. Also, maybe the wind that the car brings, or
Ooh,
you're expecting that. I guess.
okay. The breeze generated by passing traffic didn't occur to me to even think. Anyone else?
Well, she said if Keyshawn didn't get there or didn't have time, she would.
Uh-oh. I don't think that was meant for
Ooh.
the group.
All right. So, as we are, I'm not sure if we're all aware, but blindness is a spectrum. Okay. We've given up on people who have absolutely no light perception are the blind, and everyone else is like different shades, like legally blind, medically blind, snow blind, blinded by the light. Pretty much, the terminology is now we're just blind. We are just different shades, and that goes, in my opinion, that goes from absolutely no light perception at all, which, by the way, does not mean black, because people who've been born blind, they don't even know what black is, right? It's just for our purposes today, no light perception means you see nothing. There is no visual stimulus that comes through your eyes into your optic nerve and into your brain. All right. Everyone else is just different shades. So if your vision is at a point somewhere between no light perception at all the way up to, I don't want to really put like a 20 on it, but let's just say if you cannot see across the street to see the ped head. Does anyone know what I mean by the term ped head?
No.
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 Okay, the ped head, there's probably an actual name for it, but this is what we used in school. It's usually the square lit box that's attached to the poles that support the traffic lights. These are the pedestrian indicators. Okay, these are the things in modern times, these are the things that blink a sort of a blue-white. It looks like a walking man, which means it's safe to cross. Or it's a blinking red hand, sometimes accompanied with a countdown timer, or it's a solid red hand. Okay, blinking red hand means you're running out of time. Okay, and the solid red hand means you have to stop. Pedestrians are no longer safe in this intersection. And just for some context, in modern traffic lights, for the most part, these are traffic lights that have been built after the late 90s forward. These lights are enormously complex. It's not just that there's a timer. There's usually sensors in the street to detect the weight of a vehicle. And these sensors work with computers. Sometimes the computers are integrated into traffic cameras. These cameras are either controlled by a central control center, either monitored by people and or computers. And so there's a number of things that go into how fast the cycle, or the entire traffic light cycle from we'll define the traffic light cycle as, let's pretend that there's a plus or a four-way intersection. So if you're standing at one corner, the entire cycle means that first the traffic in the right to left goes, then that stops, then the traffic in the up and down goes, and then right back to left and right. Okay, so one full traffic cycle. A full traffic cycle, depending on where you are, can last anywhere between 90 seconds
p.m.
to 3 minutes. All right. And the pedestrian phase of that cycle, that is when it is minimum risk for people who are low vision or no vision to cross. Now, typical people would be able to know that it's safe to cross an intersection by looking at this ped head. Okay, so the white walking dude, or if you're in a much older part of the world, it would probably in white or yellow letters say walk. This phase of the cycle can last usually about 12 to 20 seconds on a typical day. The countdown timer can also be anywhere between 10 or 15 seconds, all the way up to an entire minute. And then of course, you have the red hand, and it doesn't matter how long that cycle is because you can't cross. All right. So if you have absolutely no light perception, or if you cannot see that signal on the other side of the street, your choices are now incredibly limited. For my folks who have no light perception, you have to go with the surge of traffic. Does anyone care to explain what the surge of traffic means? Alex? Alexandra?
Yeah, I'm here.
Because you're a veteran.
Well, I'm not, but okay. Well, the surge, to what I understand, is the moment with is the moment just exact moment when the motor of the car starts to run parallel to what I'm crossing. So if I'm crossing parallel, it's going with me. You know, I don't know. I could be totally wrong.
That is spot on. Spot
Okay.
on. So
thank you.
So the surge refers to two things. It refers to the rumble of the engine. Okay, and in gasoline,
can I
and diesel
intervene
powered,
right there?
Pardon?
I'm sorry. Can I ask you a question there?
Yeah.
Could
yes,
you
please.
address electrical cars with that?
I will get in there. Yep. So we can redefine it as any engine noise. All right. With diesel and gasoline powered engines, it's very pronounced. And pretty much everyone here may be familiar with it. That rum. Okay. With an electrical car, little more problematic. Okay. So if we only had electrical cars, or if we were on an otherwise quiet intersection with an electrical car, it's not, instead of a it's more like a all right. So and now accompanied with that sound, there you could also hear other sounds. You might hear the whine or the rumble grumble of tires. All right, but when crossing at the traffic light, you don't hear the engines rev and then go, because there's another component, and that is that the cars aren't necessarily going straight. In an ideal world, cars would not be able to turn at an intersection, in which case, if you're a blind or low vision person, every time you hear that surge in your parallel, very important, your parallel, which means you're next to you, okay? That is where you have to hear that noise. And then you're actually crossing with the cars. Now, of course, if you're coming from the other end, you're still crossing with the noise that's in your near parallel, near to you, okay? The closest sound, all right? And that's because, again, it's all about the turning cars. You have to gauge that sound. You have to actually make that decision. You actually have to figure out, is this car going straight or is it turning forward? So usually you have to wait, usually about a heartbeat, maybe two, before you're certain that the car is not going to be turning in front of you if if the surge is traveling the same direction as you, or if you're traveling towards the surge, that the car is not going to turn into you. Now, I'm not going into the full crossing with the traffic light thing. That's its own lesson, and it will take several lessons to master. All right. Now, if you have low vision and you're doing the same thing, you're still crossing with the traffic in your near parallel. If you cannot see the pedestrian, the ped head, we'll just call it the ped head for expeditious reasons. You certainly still use that sound, but if you, let's say you have enough vision to actually see the car, you may not be able to see all the way across the intersection, but if you're traveling with the cars, meaning you and the cars are traveling in the same direction, you could use the vision you still have left to actually monitor that car, and then you can use that car as a shield. You can realize, oh, I see the taillights. It's not turning. Time to boogie before that traffic light changes. All right. And by the way, this only applies to traffic light controlled intersections. Okay. Stop sign controlled intersections, uncontrolled intersections, does not apply there. All right. So it's a very, very specific function. Does everyone agree with this?
Sounds
No?
good.
All right, cool. Right. I do not teach people how to play Frogger. You do that on your own time. And now I just dated myself. All right. Okay. So we got that going on. However, all right, now, can anyone else think of any other senses or tools that you could use for crossing a traffic light controlled intersection?
You're
ahead,
using your hearing.
Right, hearing, right? We're listening for the surge, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's kind of a fake question because these are really the only two modalities that any individual, whether you're typical or whether you have blindness, can possibly use, right? Smell is not going to help us. I suppose if you have like Jedi level senses, maybe you could feel the rumble of the traffic through your feet. Not sure about that. And as far as I know, we don't have magnetic fields like pigeons do. Okay, but anyway, so when you're alone all by yourself, this is the information. This is the only information that you have. All right. So let's turn it up a notch. What if you're waiting at an intersection, okay, and suddenly you hear someone yell, "You're good to go. It's safe. You can cross."
Yeah.
Why don't you tell them they can cross? And you wait.
There you go. Right. So think about that, folks. Right. You're not. Let's say for a giggle, let's say we can actually localize the sound. What if that person is actually standing at the opposite corner? Can we rely on this person?
No.
Why not?
Because they're
Because the
not
light might
located
have,
where you are.
right. And the light might have had a little bit of time before they told you.
Indeed. Absolutely. Right? They may not have the cycle precisely timed. Right? We have to go with the absolute beginning of the cycle. We have to hear the surge, make the turning, not turning definition, and then scoot. If you're distracted by anything, if anything is distracting you and you miss that beginning of the surge, every last one of my students has to sit on that corner and wait for the next cycle. because the risk meter is now pinned. It's pegged at 11. All right. That cycle is done. All right. Because we're talking about minimum risk. Yes.
We have a
Is that-
question. So
Yes.
it might be pertaining to this. Nellie. Hi, Nellie.
Hi, yeah, it's really important to go at the beginning of the cycle, but I was gonna mention that there is a new app called OKO AI that works on the iPhone, where you
Mhm.
can get information about the traffic light cycle, whether
And
the.
we're actually getting there. We're actually
Oh,
going to be
good,
getting there.
okay, great.
Yeah,
All right,
that's
I'll let you talk about it then.
groovy.
Thank
Okay,
you.
well, I'm going to get your input later too. All right. Bene.
Stay
Right?
tuned.
So we got some
Hey, Doug,
foreshadowing going on. Yes,
it's Peggy. Can I just say something?
sure.
Times have really changed because I can remember when I first started mobility, or not even when I first started, but a while after, you used to be able to run like heck across the street, even if you were halfway down the block and you knew the light was going to change, you could sort of hear those cycles. I remember when you could do that, but boy, if you took that chance anymore now, that you'd probably get killed.
Indeed. So, if you find an older neighborhood that has not had its infrastructure significantly upgraded, example is where I did my techniques courses in the Chestnut Hill neighborhood in Philadelphia.
Yep. Mhm.
One of the reasons why they choose that neighborhood is because it's an old neighborhood. The infrastructure, those traffic lights, I think, date back to the 60s and 70s. These are dumb traffic lights. They are only based on timers. So it's like 45 seconds on, 45 seconds off, and that's it. So if there's anyone who's had O&M in the 70s and the 80s, you could have actually been instructed to actually, as part of your intersection analysis exercise, you might actually sit there and time the entire cycle. In which case, yeah, you could theoretically come up to the corner of, Germantown Avenue and Lafayette Street, and if you heard the surge from maybe 10, 20 steps down the block, you could probably, with reasonable minimal risk, say, you know what? I'm going to be at that curb in 10 seconds. I have 35 more seconds to cross that street. But no, we don't have that luxury anymore, right? Because with computers and because with traffic lights trying to make the flow of traffic, quicker, for a wide variety of reasons, that's no longer something you rely on. Not to mention the Joe or Jane Blow from the other side of the intersection. There are other trickier aspects about traffic lights that we may not necessarily know. For example, we actually have permissive turning phases. Does anyone hear that term? In simplest terms, these are traffic lights with arrows. The arrows are not for the pedestrian. These are left and right turning arrows for the cars. And that changes the game. That actually changes the length of the cycle. It can, and so you're gonna, and it also takes a lot longer to analyze that particular intersection, because you could be standing there and you could hear, well, wait a minute, I hear cars coming, cars are turning, left, but the car that's right next to me, the car that I was going to use the surge for, that's not going anywhere. What the heck is going on here? Right? So it's another wrinkle in the traffic analysis situation. And it's another reason, it's a major reason why you can't rely on someone else who's not standing right next to you. Okay? So that's another thing. Another aspect of crossing at a traffic light is whether you're sighted or typical with your vision, you should look for the pedestrian detector. Has anyone seen a pedestrian detector at a traffic light? Could
A
anyone
pedestrian
even identify a pedestrian detector?
Pedestrian detector.
I'm going to take that as a no. All right.
I'm
So
not sure. I haven't seen one.
Is that when you press the button?
it's correct. The
Ah.
pedestrian
Oh, okay.
detector
Those five.
is the button. It is the
Yeah.
button. It's not passive. Okay. Now, I understand that somewhere they are experimenting with computers, AI, and cameras so that theoretically a pedestrian could walk up to one of these super traffic lights and then the computer will see you on the camera and alter the cycle. But until that's an actual thing everywhere, as a blind person, I'm expecting you to hug that traffic pole. I want you to run your hands over that pole. It sounds unsanitary, but it's necessary because that button, for now on, we're going to call it the button, not the detector. Okay. That button actually alters the cycle. Now, it doesn't speed it up. So if you arrive at an intersection and the traffic is crossing your perpendicular right away, right? You get there and oh darn, you just missed it. The cars just started surging towards you. You push that button, it is not going to cut that cycle short. So the cars who are coming into your perpendicular, for purposes right now, we will say that we are crossing up and down. So the traffic that's coming from your right and left, that is still going to take the minute and a half that it's going to take for that cycle to run. But when you push that button, all right, that is going to change the pedestrian phase of the cycle. Running through my community, okay, my community is bisected by a 4-lane highway that is permitted for pedestrians to cross. So if I'm with my pals and we're going for our evening exercise of walking around the 4-mile perimeter of our community, if we do not push the pedestrian detector button, if we don't push that button and we just want to go for it, we have about 10 seconds to cross 4 lanes of traffic.
Mhm.
But if we push the button, we now have 35 seconds to cross. All right? Because that's meant because there are places like my community or much more rural communities, or even in a city where like let's say like a downtown, like downtown Philly, or the area around 42nd Street in Manhattan. Okay, 11 o'clock at night during the week in Manhattan is totally different than 8 a.m. Which means that if there is no pedestrians at the intersection of 6th Avenue and 40 Deuce, that pedestrian phase is going to be much shorter so that vehicle traffic can get through that quicker. All right. So another reason why we also have to pay closer attention, because, you know, if, whoever's yelling at you across the street, they may not have pushed the button, or they may have pushed it too late because it doesn't change things in the middle of the phase. Right? What about if someone's yelling at you from their car?
Yeah.
Right? You're standing right next to them. They're going to be your surge. And the guy rolls down the window and goes, "Hey, yo, it's okay." Or what if the guy is actually not in your peril? What if they're in your perpendicular and they say it's okay? Can we trust this person?
No.
No, we can't. Why? It's a matter of perspective, right? For those of you who have had the opportunity or the horror of actually driving a car, your perspective when you are sitting in that car, in that lane of traffic, is significantly different than what the pedestrian experiences. There are things that that car cannot see or detect that the pedestrian can. Right? The guy, whoever's driving, the guy or gal who's driving that car, there are things that are not nearly as dangerous to them that is to us as pedestrians.
Yeah.
Right? And okay, any questions or concerns at this point? All right.
Any
So
questions?
anything?
Anybody? Okay,
All right. So
all quiet.
all quiet on the Western Front. All right. So what about the person standing next to you going the same way? Is that a reliable source of traffic information that you could use to cross the street? I'm going to say 90% yes. Because if this person is typically sighted, they're getting all the necessary information that anyone would need to cross that street. But it does come with some caveats. Because what if the person is saying, hey, mister, it's okay for you to cross the street? Okay, that's my little child voice. I'm not doing it very good. Can we cross the street with a 5-year-old saying it's okay?
No. Depends on the
No.
5-year-old.
Right. Also, very funny, but a very true story. When I was crossing streets in Philadelphia under blindfold, okay, it's just me, my instructor, and one other student. The other student was there passively. All right. So my professor was sort of in charge of the exercise. I'm standing at I'm not sure what it is. Now in Philly, we have a lot of alleyways where cars can come in and out, but there are curb cuts there. So if you have no light perception or very poor vision, when you get to that curb, and there's also truncated domes there too, you could be fooled in thinking this could be an intersection. But as a blind person, you still have to stop because cars can still come in and out of here in an uncontrolled fashion. So anyway, I'm walking, I'm using the cane, I'm under full blindfold. My cane detects the domes and I feel the curb cut. So I stop and I'm listening. And I heard the traffic in my parallel. The traffic never stopped. The traffic just keeps going. It just keeps going. I can hear people walking back and forth. And then I hear, hold on, Lucy. It's not safe to cross. Okay, now we can cross. And I crossed this alleyway. When I got to the other side, I heard giggles. I heard giggles coming from my cohort. And she says, Doug, that woman you heard talking to Lucy was talking to a puppy. Okay, now, granted, we were both going the same way. Okay, but
That's funny.
maybe that was not the right choice. It was a reasonably good choice. I had lots of information to go for. My fellow pedestrians were not stopping. Okay, but Lucy and her mommy did. Okay, also, so but I also heard that the traffic, the vehicle traffic never really stopped. Right, so 2 out of 3 sensory cues. 2 of them were pretty good. The third one was suspect. All right. What if the person telling you or indicating that it's safe to go, what if they smell? What if they smell of booze?
Mm.
What if they reek of pot? What if their BO is really, really pronounced or just smell badly? Is this a safe source of information?
No.
No. They might be. It could very well be that you might just have encountered a construction worker just off of work. Maybe they only grabbed 2 beers at the corner tavern on their way home. You just don't know. And that uncertainty is enough to scrub the entire information process right there. Right? Nothing against homeless people and nothing against the person who wants the occasional drink, or now that the laws changed a little something extra. I don't know. But crossing while intoxicated, something to be avoided. Granted, you are all adults here. You can do as you see fit with your own life. But please have a care that even if you're providing that information to someone and you smell like a fish concert or you smell like a distillery, whoever you're giving that information to may think that you are now suspect, right? Because your prescriptive is all right. Let's pause for a moment. Any questions or concerns at this point in time? All right, moving right along. Okay, so we have our own senses, which we have to trust first. We have the not so smelly pedestrian who's crossing with you. Still pretty good, but you do not give up your autonomy and you still have to use your own senses to confirm that, right? We are not switching off just because someone said it's cool, even if that's your bestie or your spouse or mom. We do not give up our autonomy under any circumstances. Capiche?
See.
Bene. All right. Now, there are some technological fixes out there that do demonstrate some promise. Has anyone heard of the OrCam? Is anyone familiar with this device? So an OrCam, it looks and feels like a grossly oversized highlighter pen. This device can be attached to your glasses frame so that it roughly, or it can go around your neck. Either way, there's a camera inside of this little device and it's attached to a computer. And this computer uses an artificial intelligence methodology, which I'm totally unaware of, but this can read things to you. It can also tell colors. One of the very early YouTube commercials for this device was a young lady in Israel. She used her OrCam to detect a traffic signal. Now, I'm not sure. Now, back at that time, that was an aspirational component of the OrCam. So that wasn't actually programmed in. That was something that they were hoping to try for. Now, I've never really had an opportunity to use an OrCam in the wild, but I am aware that, for example, if you're in Manhattan or Philadelphia, is anyone aware of the collage of metal signs that you might see at certain intersections where you'll have one way, parking between 5 a.m. and 6 p.m. only, tow-away zone, and maybe like 2 or 3 other signs? No? Yes? Maybe? Anyway, all these
Yes.
signs could be right around where the ped head is. And the OrCam might try to read every last bit of this information to you. And I'm not really sure exactly how far advanced the OrCam's AI is when it actually comes to focusing in on the ped head. So I have to go with, I will not use an OrCam to detect what's going on the other side of the street until someone gives me some more information. So I'm going to have to say that no, I would not recommend using an OrCam to tell me what the ped head says or even what the traffic light looks like. Because sometimes the ped head might be broken, in which case, if you have any residual vision, actually seeing the traffic light itself can also be a good piece of information, right? Is anyone else familiar with the OrCam, or can anyone tell me about it? And is that functionality actually a viable option at this time?
Not sure.
Okay, I'm gonna take that as a not sure. So for the time being, if we do have three large of discretionary money just rolling around our bank account, and if you want an OrCam, God bless. It is a pretty interesting piece of technology. I would not recommend using it to cross the street. So let's talk about some apps, shall we? So there are two smartphone apps that I've become aware of. One of them is called Walk Assist, and the other one is called OKO, OKO. Both of these apps use an artificial intelligence again. But what they are actually geared to do is actually only identify the ped head and what it's doing. So in the case of OKO, it only does three things. It identifies the ped head, and then it either says, I haven't actually had an opportunity to test it in the field yet, but it either says walk, or when it's showing the white walking dude, or it'll say countdown timer, or it'll say don't walk. And it's also accompanied with haptics. So the phone is also vibrating in your hand if you have I guess it's an iPhone 10 or later with the haptics. I'm not totally sure on that. Now, the Walk Assist also has an interesting functionality. It is also supposed to identify the crosswalk painted on the tar. So with Walk Assist, it's actually supposed to help you align with the crosswalk as well as locate and identify what the ped head is saying. Is anyone else familiar with these options?
I've read podcasts on them, but I've not tried them.
Right? Anyone try it?
No.
So yeah, so the one time I actually used it, and one time is not practice. I actually used it to cross Broad Street in Newark, and it actually worked reasonably well. I was actually quite, and this is the OKO app. Also, if you have vision, if it's safe to walk, the entire screen turns green. The entire screen turns green. So,
cool.
right. So, so you may not be able to see all the way across the street, but if you're so basically, they tell you that you hold the phone roughly below your chin, and then basically you may have to pan left, pan right to actually get the phone to zero in on the ped head. But once it does, I was quite astonished. So theoretically, if your vision doesn't go all the way across the street, but you might be able to use the camera on your phone, and then it'll just go green. Now, if you have no light perception at all, you can actually turn that function off and get more battery life out of your phone, in which case it'll only speak and vibrate. Here's the problem. It's a great concept. And it does seem to kind of work, but it's really, really new. It's really new. This is iPhone 1 stuff. Okay? This is the very first update of the iOS. It's not proven yet. It's really close. It's really, really close. And I do understand that there are some people who are proposing using, getting some money together and actually doing a research project. So, as an instructor, I'm kind of on the fence as to whether I would recommend this to my students or not at this time. Now, to be quite fair, my process would be before introducing handheld technology, like your phone or an OrCam or something like that, into my O&M instruction, you will first have to demonstrate that you can cross that street without that, which means you're going to have to use the sonic surge, in your near parallel every single time. You're going to have to satisfy me that you can cross the street without any assistance whatsoever before I start introducing the phone to you. But I'm really, really, to me, this could be very, very good in that because right now, my students who cannot see that ped head, you always have to rely on that car that's either moving with you, right next to you, or coming towards you. Right? But imagine if we actually had that added extra, if we could actually see that light change, right? Suddenly, we actually have crucial seconds to actually really analyze the situation. So, what are your thoughts about technological? Yes, someone raised their hand?
Yes.
Or was that? Yeah.
No, we have a question. Donna?
Yes, I'm visually impaired plus hearing impaired. And I was wondering if this would be very helpful to somebody that has two dual impairments. Because I have trouble hearing the cars. I do not, when you describe hearing the cars, when it made the noise, I don't hear that. But I can see the cars.
Okay.
And upon the lighting, whether I can see the light, the hand or whatever across the street or not. But I am having difficulties crossing because I don't understand the timing of what you have been talking about now. Because for instance, today, I noticed that when I got closer to the light that I ended up, it was red. So, but I'm very lucky that there was hardly any traffic, and maybe that was part of the problem because there was hardly any traffic, and it made it harder for me to figure out when I was supposed to cross.
Oh yeah, yeah. I have students that when we're at a traffic light, sometimes there's no traffic at all, in which case you have to sit there. Okay, you cannot cross a traffic light controlled intersection as a blind person with none of that stimuli. It's just, it is way too risky. It just is. Even, because stuff can happen. And it's just better to be, and it's also just better to be on the side of the law if, God forbid, something happens. Right? Okay. So, as a woman with a hearing impairment, as well as a significant visual impairment, once the technology has been proven, I'm going to have to say, yeah, for you, that can be a significant game changer. If you could have certainty that light has been illuminated, and that as far as the machines are concerned, it is safe to cross the street.
Right. Thank you.
Right. So yeah.
Yes.
So even my blind students, my totally blind, no light perception students, if you are at a traffic light controlled intersection, and I don't know, let's say you're coming home from the bar at 1 a.m, right? your community, the traffic in your community can be much, much less compared to when you got to that bar at 7 o'clock at night. So under those circumstances, if it's absolutely all quiet and your phone is going walk, walk, walk.
7:57.
Oh, also, I want to back up on something. Back to the traffic light. What about an APS? Has anyone used an APS to cross a street?
APS, can you define that?
Okay,
What is
okay,
that?
I might have the terminology wrong. I believe it's automated or audible pedestrian system.
Oh,
Okay, these are blind people's traffic lights,
Nellie,
right?
you
So
have your hand raised. You have one?
Yes, I have used the APS, but the thing is that you always have to listen to the flow of traffic. I always listen to the flow of traffic.
Right.
You know, the advantage is that the APS tells you right away when it changes, but I listen to how the cars are going as well before I step off the curb.
you are absolutely correct. You are absolutely correct. Just because this piece of technology, whether it's your phone, an OrCam, or the APS, all these things, the only thing these things are telling you is that the machine across the street is showing the right light that indicates it's safe to cross, right? Those traffic lights have no idea whether it's safe to cross. The only thing the traffic light know is red, amber, green, right? I don't care how smart it is. That's the only thing they know. So you are absolutely correct. So even with an APS, you still cannot give up your autonomy. You still have to listen or search for those surge criteria, whether it's audible or visual or both. So just to refresh, an APS provides auditory cues for the blind individual. Under the most ideal of circumstances, when you find the pedestrian button and press it to alter the upcoming traffic cycle so that your pedestrian phase is longer, there's usually a sign right above the button. If that sign and the button were installed correctly, if you were to place your forearm against that sign, you are 100% aligned with the opposite corner, right? And then the APS, some of them use voices, some of them use beeps. But it's so like there's one in New Brunswick over by George Street and Route 27. So if you've ever been to the COMS Center and if you've ever crossed that intersection, you know, it'll go, you know, if you press the button, it'll say, wait to cross Albany at George. And then when the traffic light is in your favor, it'll say, walk, 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 walk. And then when it's not, when that blinking red hand goes up, then you have a rapidly, you have there's a sound that goes like, bup, 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 bup. So we're like, hey, hurry up, move it, move it, move it. Right? So I understand New York City, I know they were sued recently, and I think that New York City has to change the vast majority of their traffic lights to APS, right? They are still not very common out there, but they are a thing.
we have a
All right.
question.
Oh, yes.
Miss Ruth, would you like to ask your question?
Yes, please. Doug, interesting conversation. I have a question about electric cars. My friend Wanda had gotten a ride from paratransit and they showed up in an electric car. It was sitting there for 15 minutes and it didn't blow its horn, so she didn't know it was there. Is there anything to do? I mean, you really can't hear those cars.
Yeah, they are subtle.
They're
They
tricky.
really, really are.
They are.
And
Yeah.
it is truly a major problem. I have reasonably good hearing, I think. My friends say I have bad hearing, for lack of a better word. Um, but yes, you cannot hear the electrical car from the same distance that you can hear a gasoline or diesel powered car. Um, they they really are dangerous. The only thing I could think of at this time is that you have to get more familiar with the sound of an electrical car starting. Hybrids are great because it's my understanding that most hybrid cars use the gasoline engine to start. So the typical surge compared to maybe 10 years ago, you'll just hear cars idling, brum, 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 and then the of the engines, adding power to get the car moving.
Right.
With a hybrid car, you'll actually hear the engine tick over, like the key starting the engine. But the purely electrical cars, the golf carts in the world, I would not want to be in that village down in Florida where everyone's driving golf carts.
That's true.
It is a true hazard. It truly, truly is. And I'm thinking that somewhere, either we as consumers or me as a teacher, we may have to find a resource to teach our students what that sound is and how far away you can hear that sound from,
Right.
because it does change the dynamics of the situation. I know that it's been proposed, I don't know how far along it is in the legislative process, that would mandate that the electrical component of either a battery car or of a hybrid car, that would have to make more noise, either a speaker or what the a grokker, the spinny noisemaker. No, some kind of a noisemaker.
Yeah, what do you call that?
From Purim, we call it a grokker. If anyone's
Like a spinny thing.
a spinny thing, yes, a spinny thing. Something that would let the blind people know that even that the car is sitting there.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I actually walked into a hybrid car. It was in the crosswalk.
Wow.
I was under full blindfold. I didn't know the car was there. I just knew that I was going with the surge in traffic. I knew that I had the right of way, and I knew that the car in front of me was not turning, and suddenly, kaboom, I walked right into this guy's fender. My teacher told me the look on the guy's face was priceless. Because they shouldn't have been there. They were in my spot.
That's right. You tell
So that'll learn them. Right?
That's hard on the body, though, to make those kind of points with people, to make that statement. It's hard on your body.
It can be, yeah. and just think what it did to my poor cane.
That's right.
It scuffed it. Yikes. So yeah, electric cars, yep, that's a bit of a bear, absolutely. All right. Can anyone think of what if an intersection, what if it is giving you a hard time? What if I don't know, what if you're near the laboratory that's produced all the electrical cars, or you're right by the Tesla car dealership and every car that's going by is electric, right? And there is no APS there, and you do not trust your new OCO or WeWalk app or whatever. What's another sound way to cross that intersection?
What about using IRA?
There we go. IRA, or Be My Eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It's under discussion. It truly, truly is. I mean, the great thing is that you have a sighted person using a fairly advanced camera to get an eye on the situation. But, and
have an
here's the
idea.
but,
Mhm.
the view of the camera it's not typical human vision, right? Typical sighted individuals, their field of view would basically be if you were to take your arms and hold them at arm's length and make a V with your arms, then basically your the angle is roughly 45-degree angle. I think the typical left-right vision, I think we have a typical person has 120-degree view of the world. Right? Think about that. From your nose, 45 degrees left, more than 45 because it's 60 degrees. 60 degrees left, 60 degrees right. I don't think our cameras on our phone have the same field of view.
Right.
Right? So that means that, okay, so, oh, hello, Ira. I'm trying to cross Main Street and Plum Street. And there's a traffic light here, but there's not a lot of traffic and I'm not getting the right information. Can you help me? So whoever's on the phone may be saying, okay, can you pan left into the intersection? Can you pan right? Can you pan left again? So it's possible, but is anyone here? Has anyone had typical vision? And has anyone what was the street crossing criteria you were given in grade school when somebody taught you how to cross the street? Look
both
left.
way?
Look left. Look right. Look left again.
Right.
No, did anyone get that lesson? No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I think it might have even been a PSA in New York City, like back when I was a child. So even when you're at a traffic light, especially in New York City or Philly, because those bicycles or those scooter guys or those skateboarders, they don't pay attention to traffic signals, right?
Yep.
So the whole concept of, right? So if I'm there, I got my phone, I got my cane, and they're going, okay, all right, got to pan left, got to pan right, got to pan left again. There's a whole procedure here that I think O&M professionals probably have to work out with the IRA people before we start using this particular technique. It's not that I don't trust the folks at IRA, and it's not that the camera is bad. It's just that I think some other items have to come together before we can say that we are truly minimizing risk in a responsible fashion. So I'm going to have to say when using IRA or Be My Eyes, it's a maybe. And we should probably table this conversation until there's more research or until somebody's worked out a more realistic procedure. This is my personal opinion. I'm not sure if greater minds than mine have come up with that, but this is my gut. And I do know that some of the discussion in some of the O&M discussion boards, yes, there's still discussion boards out there. I think they're actually talking about using OCO and Walk Assist versus IRA Be My Eyes versus just using typical O&M surge-based crossing strategies.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? Unless you know something that I don't. Because I'm truly do not know exactly what the field of view on the camera is. Who knows? There might even be an attachment or maybe a sub program where the camera's field of view can be expanded so that whoever is viewing your camera view through their PC or Mac can actually get a typical sighted vision view of the intersection.
You know,
I mean,
Doug,
go
I
on.
wonder if it's a responsibility factor. You know, like that person who's crossing you
Oh,
is taking the
indeed.
responsibility of letting you know.
Oh,
So it's like it's a
absolutely.
liability for those companies.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah,
oh, you know what? I never even thought about that. And you know what? That might be a can of worms that they may not want to answer ever.
right.
It could very well be. It's like if you're standing, at an intersection and you contact Ira, it's like, hi, I'd like to cross this street. Can you help me? They might say no.
They might be able to tell you if the light is green or red, but I
And-
don't know if they can help
Right.
you across the street.
And
Oh, no.
that might be the only thing they might be willing to do. And even then, they might just say, you know what? I do not want to be part of this street crossing
Right.
debate
Well,
at all.
IRA has changed its policy with mobility, I think. Now, I could be wrong about this. Be my eyes. I don't know that they do that kind of thing because it's a little different. But IRA, I think they do a little more work with street crossings, but what they do, I do not know for sure. So,
That'd be an
I'm just-
interesting thing to find out.
It would be. It
Yeah.
absolutely would be. And I'd be a little reluctant to use IRA because it's a bit subscription-based service.
Mhm.
So using IRA to get you to help you O&M from point A to point B, that could be a very expensive proposition.
Yeah,
And the operator at the other end, their typical day is, oh, I'm going to read the marquee in an office building to let you know what suite it is, help you find an office door, help you find your guide dog's poop. Or help you find, the salt-free rice-a-roni at the supermarket. Having them help you cross the street, you've really
that's like above their pay grade.
you've raised the bar. Oh, yes, you have. You've changed things very significantly.
We
So-
actually have a question from Nellie. Nellie,
right.
you want to add something?
Currently unmuted.
Yes, when I first signed up for IRA, I was strongly instructed that when I am going any place, that I should always rely on either my cane or my guide dog and my orientation and mobility skills, and not use IRA as a substitute for my mobility skills. And so what they do is they'll give you visual information, but they do not tell you it's okay to cross now or not okay to cross. They can tell you you are, the street in front of you is a 4-lane intersection or something like that. Or they can read the street sign, but they will not tell you about the safety or not lack of safety of crossing the street.
I have to wholeheartedly agree with that policy.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Now, as far as it goes, letting you know how many lanes of traffic, what direction is traveling in, what the names of those streets are, maybe some other indications as to what the street furniture is. Are the truncated domes under your feet, in fact, aligned with the corner? Or like in some places, they point to the middle of the intersection, which is nowhere any person, blind or typically sighted, should ever be. I don't even know how traffic cops do it without getting an ulcer. So, that information, number of lanes, traffic, etc., that can definitely significantly speed up your ability to analyze the intersection, which is the information that you need to minimize your risk when crossing. But I'm gonna have to definitely get on board with that having a third party using your phone's camera to let you know whether it's safe or not, I'm gonna have to say resounding no. Resounding absolute no. All right. Any other questions or concerns? Got any funny jokes? I'm always looking for those.
Yes. Yeah, this is Stanley. Can you hear me?
I
Yes,
can.
Stanley.
All
Hello.
right. There's also a problem in areas where people turn right on red, and the driver tends to be looking towards the left and not to the right where I may be standing, and how we handle that.
Mm.
Any advice?
Yeah, that's a very classic O&M dilemma. And it's really about timing and location. So if you're going with the surge and the traffic in your near parallel, so the traffic traffic doesn't walk. If the traffic is flowing in the direction that you plan on walking, it's about timing where the car is in the intersection before you jump. So the surge is a great indicator saying, get ready, right? Hair trigger, get ready. Usually I would have to say that you know that the car is not going to turn into you when the car roughly reaches your 11 o'clock position, your 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock position, right? So if your nose is 12 o'clock, so when your left hand is pointing roughly at the 10 or the 11 o'clock position, that's usually a fair indicator that that vehicle is now going straight. Right? And if you're going with the oncoming surge, usually that car has to reach about your 2 o'clock, your 2:30 position. But of course, you might have a significant advantage at the traffic light because if you're walking towards the surge, a lot of the times that means that when you're crossing that intersection, there's a car that's sitting right there, basically acting as a shield, which means if someone's going to be turning right, they're going to hit that car. Wait, am I getting it right? Yeah. So if a car, right? So you actually have a little bit of a shield for at least half of the intersection. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Right? So by the time you reach the middle of that intersection, the cars might still be coming, but they still have to look right in order, and they will see you coming by the time you've crossed in front of that stationary car. Yeah, it could very well be, Stanley, you might just need a slight refresher in O&M and just, review your traffic, your intersection analysis, and, just a light one. But you're here talking to us, so I think you've solved that problem.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Is anyone else aware of any other apps or technologies that might be able to assist us when it comes to crossing a street?
Hi.
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 This is Phyllis Bass.
Hi, Phyllis.
Hi. I'm late coming on to your session, but I've been hearing about IRA. What is IRA?
IRA, spelled AIRA, is a smartphone application whereby you're contacting a human being at the other end. It's sort of like a FaceTime call. Do you know what a FaceTime call is?
Oh.
It's a video call. So you're
Oh,
making a
okay.
video call to somebody somewhere. They then take control over your. They are not take control, but they are now using your phone's camera. Okay, so that not the so that the camera that's on the back of the phone, not the part of the phone that you dial. Most
Right.
smartphones have two cameras. One is for the camera that's on the side that you dial from. Um, Apple calls that the FaceTime camera. FaceTime is Apple's video call service, kind of like the Jetsons. Anyone watch the Jetsons
Yeah.
when they were kids? No. All right.
Yeah.
But Ira uses the more robust camera that's on the back of the phone. Ira is mainly marketed for people who are like, maybe you're going shopping, so you contact Ira and say, hi, I'm at the Stop and Shop. I'm looking for these items. Can you help me locate the item? So the operator might say, okay, Ms. Bass, could you pan the camera up? Oh, okay, Miss Bass, we're looking at aisle 14. Aisle 14 is frozen foods. We have chicken, we have ice cream, we have this. And you say, oh no, I'm looking for canola oil. Okay, Miss Bass, you may want to come down the next aisle. Oh, that's aisle 13. Oh, that's aisle 7. Aisle 7, cooking oil. What are you looking for? Wesson? Okay, keep going down, pan left, pan right. Oh, there's the Wesson. Yep, and there's the canola oil. Reach down, next one to the left. There you go, and there's your oil. Ira helps blind people find their guide dog poop. Ira helps
Okay.
people locate dropped items. Hey, I just dropped an earring on the floor. Can you help me find it? They might help you go through your own pantry. They might help you read documents, but I do not recommend having Ira help you read personal private information.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want you sharing your social security number with the Ira operator.
Right.
Right? So yeah, it's pretty nifty. It comes in handy, but it is a subscription service. That's my understanding. And you have to buy blocks of minutes. So if it's going to
Okay.
take you, half an hour to do some food shopping, that's money you're going to have to spend. Although it is my understanding that for Christmas return season, a couple years ago when Ira was somewhat new, I understand that they had 2 months of Ira free for people who were returning shopping after the winter holidays. But it does cost. There is a comparable service called Be My Eyes. There's another one in Europe, but it's only available in Europe, not here. And that service I cannot remember. Does that help,
Yes.
Ms. Bass?
Now I know what you're saying.
Okay, groovy.
Thank
Doug,
you.
Yes.
it's Peggy. Ira is bonded. That's what makes it a little bit different than Be My Eyes. Be My Eyes is free. But Ira is bonded. Just I don't know if you
Oh.
knew that or not.
Okay, so then that means that as the consumer, you would have certain legal protections, right? Because by being
Yes.
bonded, they're basically promising that they will never use your personal information. So
Yeah.
I guess I'm assuming that means that if you are using Ira to do some banking, and if your information does get out there, then they'll probably contact Ira first. They will contact that operator and maybe do a quick investigation to make sure that operator has not benefited from your information. I would still think it's a little bit sketchy, but bonded is bonded. Yeah, I'm sorry. Did someone have a question?
Alexandria,
I wanted to intervene. It is
please.
they're binded, and also you can trust them with banking information. And for example, in Bank of America, they're free. You don't have to have the package of minutes to use them in Bank of America or in major airports. For example, Newark Airport, you can use it, and it is totally free. I have tried it.
Oh, Brave New World. How about that?
Just for those two that I know of, but they're
Oh.
expanding services to like I heard somebody talk about governmental offices to help people with ARIA. Be My Eyes is not trusted with any personal information, but it is very very helpful with like if you want to identify your clothing to put it into the washer, that is
Right.
very helpful.
Or even if you want to color coordinate your shoes, you know, with your shirt and whatever. Yeah. Well, I did not know that IRA is bonded, and you can in fact trust them with that information. That's pretty cool. That really is. All right. Anyone else? Observations?
Any other
I do
questions?
have one. I
Go
do
ahead.
have one.
Yes.
You know this type of intersections. There's a name that you guys use. You guys O&M. I'm saying, the Y intersections and this type of intersections. What will be your first and most important tip to assess that intersection?
All right. So a Y intersection. Typically, three streets coming together at at least one of the intersecting roads is not intersecting at a 90-degree angle. You would treat it very much like a typical intersection, but you want your alignment, especially in crossing the angled street, is crucial because the possibility of veering is very significant. So you need to be very much aware of at what angle the streets intersect each other. So like I said, yeah, typical intersection, but you have to pay much more attention to veering. Also, the sonic environment is also different because now the sound is not traveling at right angles or straight towards you. All those angles can contribute to veering errors.
Mhm.
You know, so it takes a little bit more practice and it takes a little bit more finesse. One of my recommendations would be if you're going to veer inside of the intersection. So the intersection or the box where all the cars eventually end up, let's call that the outside. The inside is basically into the lane of traffic, right? Or away from the traffic light. So
Okay.
if I was veering into an intersection, I'd much rather tap the bumper of a car that's standing still at the traffic light versus a moving car, you know, in the primary intersection. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. There are always an issue for me, especially in glare, those type of intersections that are so weird. And I have a bunch of them by my house, so that's why the question.
Oh yeah. Yeah, they can be very frustrating. And sometimes if my student just isn't getting it, we just have to reroute. You know, but especially in some of your older neighborhoods, we're talking neighborhoods built long, you know, where streets were laid down long before cars. You know, where cities development was more organic as opposed to planned. I'm thinking downtown New York City, where Greenwich Village is, some of the older parts of Philly, some of the older parts of Newark, where the like a 5 points type intersection. Ooh, very hairy, very scary. A lot going on. In fact, there's a great one in Paramus. I helped a student learn how to cross, and there's just one part of that intersection they just can't cross. We both came to that conclusion that due to the nature of that intersection and that student's methodology, If that student needs to get to the other side of that particular street at that particular intersection, they either have to walk a block back, cross, and then come back, or they have to do a big U all the way around and come back from the other end.
Mm.
It's just too risky. And yeah, sometimes in O&M, yeah, you have to work a little bit harder because smarter just doesn't work there. You just have to add a little bit more time to your commute. You just do. All
You
right?
have to be safe. That's the number one.
Precisely. Right? And remember, in O&M, we do not guarantee safety. We minimize risk. It's a risky world out there.
It's a scary
I have
place.
It's a scary place, but you know what? It's worth it.
I have a
Phyllis?
question. With a guide dog, when I'm walking down a main street and you have your cross traffic, I always wait until the traffic is going the same way I'm going. But I would hesitate for a little bit, and then I would give my dog the signal to go forward because I don't know if there's a car right there want to turn right in front of me to go down that street, the side street. That's the only thing. And another point is these electric cars, what can we do when you crossing the street with your guide dog and you give the command for the dog to go and this electric car is turning right in front of us?
Well, what does your dog do?
Well, he would stop,
Yeah.
because
Will-
the car is right at about 2 inches from his nose.
That's right. Your dog just did their job. So, yeah.
That's
It's
dangerous.
intelligent disobedience.
Correct. That is the precise term for it. And you, young lady, that is exactly how you're supposed to cross a street. Your dog sees moving objects. Your dog does not know whether the traffic signal is on. You still have to use your O&M skills, your hearing, and any residual vision you have left, to cross that intersection. Your dog is not that autonomous.
Mm-hmm.
And besides, dogs are cute until they start talking, because then they can start talking back.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Pleasure. So yeah, you did it right. You're doing it right.
I do that at 2-minute hesitation, and then I will give the signal for the dog to go forward. But I always do that because I don't know that car to my left want to turn in front of me to go down that side street. I always do that. I listen.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to listen.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Phyllis.
Pleasure.
Any other questions or comments? This was a lot of information, Doug. I love your terms. Do you make them up?
A lot of them, yeah. No, actually, yes.
You're gonna have to put out a code. Like with your pet head.
There we go. No, pet head. I actually learned that in school. That's
Okay.
that's somebody else.
All right. I
Yep.
think. Is there
Well,
anything else that you wanted to cover, Doug? Or
No, I'm done for the evening. So I
Okay.
hope you all got some benefit out of this. And I do believe that once these technologies have been proven, they could become part of your O&M toolkit, your personal toolkit.
Mm.
I'm really looking for the day when I have the opportunity to try some of these myself in a somewhat more urban setting. Unfortunately, I just don't have my where I live is not that urban, so I'm hoping maybe one day when I have time in Princeton or New York or New Brunswick, where I could really put this sucker through its paces and just see how it is.
Curious to hear about that.
Absolutely, because if it's too slow in getting the recognition, then you miss the cycle.
Yeah.
And then you're crossing during the countdown, or God forbid, you might still be in the street after the countdown. And folks, we can't afford to make that kind of a mistake.
Well, thank you so much, Doug, for being with us, sharing
It's been
all
a
of this
pleasure.
great information.
Thanks, Doug.
Hope everybody
Pleasure.
Thank you, Doug.
absorbed everything. So thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank
see
you.
you
Good night,
very
y'all.
Thank
soon,
you.
and you all stay well.
You
Okay,
too.
thanks,
Thank
Doug.
you.
And don't forget to
Thank
go on
you.
to the VLANJ YouTube channel where you can view all of these presentations, because this was a lot of information. So you might want to review it. So join our YouTube channel and subscribe, because then you'll get notifications.
Absolutely. And everyone, if you're truly concerned that you're experiencing problems, it's time to contact an O&M and maybe brush up.
Absolutely.
Because listen to your gut. Listen to your gut. It's probably speaking truth to power.
Contact the commission. Tell them you need a refresher. Maybe Doug will come visit you.
I just might. And because you're all so experienced, it could just be one and done.
Mm.
All right, everyone. You have a
Thank
great
you.
night. Good night.
Take
Stay
care. Have a
well.
good
Take
night.
care,
Take
evening,
care,
Thank you for
everybody.
joining
Good
us.
night.
A good
Bye-bye.
night. Stay well.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye. Bye, Doug.
Bye.
Bye, Doug. Thank you.
Bye bye.